Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. I wanted to spend an episode to discuss prosperous thinking. Obviously, we've dedicated several episodes to this. I wanted to come to this from a different angle. Prosperity is a spiritual value within you, which is invisible until you demonstrate it. It is a spiritual state that you must access for it to become real. When New Thought started hundreds of years ago, the movement was unique, and to some extent it still is, but our teaching clearly emphasizes that a person or a group of people can use a spiritual premise and have expanding prosperity in material goods. In those early days, this concept did not meet with the approval of theological minds who praised the virtue of poverty and felt that the poor and neglected were the chosen of the infinite. Today, however, most large church organizations have accepted the idea in principle and no longer defame the rich and ennoble the poor. The individual is his own prosperity. I am my own prosperity. You are your own prosperity. So let us define what we mean by that term. What does prosperity mean? For me, the best way to understand it is prosperity is the freedom to do what you want when you want to. I know most of you think of prosperity in terms of money. Having all the money you need is very important. However, as you go along, you will find that such things as health, love, and creative ideas can also play a part in the definition. Prosperity is the freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it. So how do we achieve this freedom? Perhaps right now your earnings are low or may have even been temporarily unemployed. How do you go about achieving the prosperity that may seem far beyond your reach? For many, the idea of being free to do what you want when you want seems impossible. In order to find this, you have to do what I call profitable thinking. By thinking what you want, you stop thinking what you don't want. Gradually, what you don't want slips away, and in its place, that which you want begins to happen. We know that the subconscious mind takes what you give it and produces it. One of the great things that we now understand is that the subconscious mind is totally impersonal. It is as impersonal as an egg beater, which beats eggs, but doesn't know what it is beating them. Your subconscious mind takes what you give it and assumes that what you give it is what you want. Unfortunately, many individuals think anything that comes into their heads and don't expect results from that thinking. Suppose you sit down for an hour session over your bills. Seems pretty steep to you, and at the end of the period you say, I know God's prosperity will take care of me. And then you walk away from your desk. What do you think is going to happen? The universal mind must, according to its law, act upon your thoughts. 60 minutes have been devoted to concerns about money, and 30 seconds were given to leaving it up to the divine cause. You say, Brian, I always say, I know God's prosperity will take care of me, but nothing happens. Why is that? Prosperity will never result from unevenly balanced thinking. Your answer will be unprofitable rather than profitable. Your deliberate thinking, or what I call your intention thinking, is a spiritual tool that you use to bring abundance into your life. Using intentional thinking, as they discuss in transurfing. You also use your feelings, your emotions, as you think with intent, with purpose, and with plan in order to cause any object or event that you desire to materialize. You can do what they refer to in New Thought as demonstrate only that which you hold persistently in your consciousness. One thing is certain, however, you must know what you want. It is amazing to me that there are so many people in this world who do not know what they want. These are the people who often say, well, I'd like to, or it has always been my dream. And I call those individuals the halfway people. They can express a hope in a half-hearted and unbelieving way, but they never say, I want this, or I want that. They never idealize it. They never bring their heart into it. These halfway people who are never sure look like people who are either too afraid or too lazy to try. They are men and women of indecision. They never think in a decisive way. Their negative mind action is unprofitable. It gets them nothing but frustration and more problems. You cannot proceed a single step forward in your experience of prosperity without a clear-cut desire. Once you are completely aware there is something you want, go after it by creating a self-image in which you already have what you want. Work unceasingly until you get the object you desire. It may be money, a new home, a new car, or a trip abroad. It may also be health and an ability to be more self-expressive. Desire is the key to prosperous thinking and living. We all need money, and we need to think of it in larger terms than the day-to-day requirements. The need of money and the use of money as a means of exchange is a part of our economic system. It's a part of third density. It is essential, and you can have it. Believe in it. Like it. Love your checkbook. This is possible because we have moved a long way from the time when money was called filthy lucre or the root of all evil. So I suggest you take 10 minutes, just sit down and think of nothing but prosperity. This is not going to be easy for many of you. You know all about the light and gas bill. You know all about the rent or the mortgage payment on your home. You can think about these and do it frequently. Now think about money with the same great ease. Think about money in all of its forms. Look in your wallet and study the faces of the men who are on each of the bills. Make a point to learn the faces that are on each denomination of bill that forms a part of the United States currency. I love to enjoy contemplating the likeness of Ulysses S. Grant. Having a few of these can give you great freedom. That's only one way of thinking about prosperity. Look about in your house or apartment and consider the things that cost the most. Say, aren't these wonderful? Get out your jewelry and wear it. Eat tomorrow's breakfast with sterling silver that you keep for special occasions. It will never wear out. Watch your attitudes about your use of money and the valuable possessions that you are inclined to hoard instead of enjoying. I try to remind myself several times a day that money is the action of life in a specialized way for my freedom, for my enjoyment, for my ease. And it really is spiritual, and it's not material. I believe that the demarcation between spiritual and material is something we have set up through the ages, and it is time that we forget about it. There is no line of demarcation. Everything is spiritual and everything is fundamentally good. When it seems evil, it is because of our human misuse of mind. This includes money, which is not merely a means of exchange, but a joy and a delight. It is wonderful in all forms, in accumulation, release, and spending. It makes for spiritual freedom, while debt always carries with it a neurosis. I know I'm going to get comments in this video, as I do every time. Someone will say that I've sold out, or this is wrong, or it's false teaching. Years ago, Ernest Holmes wrote an article entitled "God Loves a Prosperous Man." According to Raymond Charles Barker, He said we were rather holy in those days, about 35 years ago, and many of the teachers in the field shook their heads. Mr. Holmes has gone commercial, they said. Barker was even a bit dismayed at the title, but gradually he got used to it, and finally he said, "That's good." It had become apparent that when a man or woman is prosperous, and that doesn't mean possessed of great wealth, he or she has a less cluttered mind. There's less cause for concern, anxiety, or fear. Therefore, creative cause can operate more fully through such a mind. From that moment of clarification, Barker says he accepted a new self-image and viewed himself as a prosperous man. And before that, he had thought of money as something that one collected in church but never discussed unless it was necessary to ask for a new roof or an extra collection for Easter. If you can accept yourself as prosperity and use that word, go one step further and say, "I am money in circulation." This statement may come as a shock to your subconscious mind, steeped as it is in the old traditions. However, when the subconscious knows you really mean it and goes to work, things begin to happen. If you have difficulty believing that you can truly be prosperous, try saying these words repeatedly. "Within me there are plenty of talents. I now change my consciousness from one of poverty to one of prosperity." We know that whatever the creative cause, or what you might call God, or the universe, or the universal mind, has always been beneficial. We know that it has always been creating out of itself and giving itself away. This is why we have a cosmos. This is why we have every form of life that exists on Earth. This is why man has evolved to the present moment. Something is giving itself away. Something is releasing itself into form. Something is outpouring itself. And as the great teacher said, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, meaning those who can receive it have it. Those who can't receive it don't have it. Receptivity is dependent upon the attitude of mind. It is not dependent upon the economic situation or inflation, although we try to tell ourselves that it is. It is dependent on one thing only, and that is your mental attitude. You are the only thinker in your mind, so you can determine what your mental attitude is to be. The divine givingness, this prospering mind, is forever active, whether you get into the stream of its action or whether you stay out of it. Prosperity always exists, whether you're in it or not. People will continue to make money for as long as you and I are alive. Many people will make lots of money, no matter what the circumstances, during depressions, high or low inflation, whatever. Real estate collapses, people will continue to make money. Others will go along struggling, straining, and groaning right to their death because they do not realize that mental attitudes make the difference between riches and poverty. To him that hath shall be given, and from him who hath not, even that which he hath shall be taken. This is the law of consciousness. Therefore, it all begins and ends in the individual, in you. It's not the collective that is determining your prosperity. When you think of money in terms, never think in terms of the definite sum. You may be limiting your potential. I need $6,000 for this vacation. Never underestimate your worth. What you say is 6,000 might be 600,000. In Ernest Holmes' The Science of the Mind, which we will definitely be reading at some point. It's just such a big, beautiful book. Bears repeating along this line. 4 men were involved. John received a salary of $75 a week. Bill's wages were $100 a week. Jim's were $125, and Charles earned $150. Obviously, they were making a lot less back then. All these men lost their jobs, and each went to a New Thought practitioner for spiritual treatment in order to obtain another job. One would naturally assume that each wanted more money. In cases similar to the ones we're talking about, the practitioner works with thought that there is nothing but activity. He thereby heals the belief in activity and declares that the individual concerned is divinely active, occupied, and compensated. Without question, the practitioner sets a mental law in motion which will produce something for each of the individuals treated. His treatment is good and effective. If the individuals accept it as being so, each man finds a position. As a result, John receives $75 a week. Bill gets $100, Jim goes to work for $125, and Charles once more receives $150. Why didn't each man receive a higher salary? Or why didn't all receive at least as much as Charles? The practitioner spoke the same words for each, but the law of mental equivalence, or imaging what you want, was at work. There was a lack of expectancy of a greater good on the part of each of the men. Each wanted nothing more than his old salary again. None of them aspired to anything higher. Ernest Holmes' comment was, each attracted unto himself out of the universal good that which he could comprehend, that which he believed he would get. So you might be making $100,000 and you'd really love to get $120,000. And if you think you can get that, that's all you'll get. Stop limiting yourself. When I use the large sums of money affirmation, I don't have a specific amount. That's always changing. I'm trying to expand on that amount. I try to change the pattern of what I believe large sums of money to be. Prosperity at all times is seeking to get into your mind and affairs. How are you going to let it in? First of all, you must think in its terms. You can't think contrary to the infinite giver and expect to have its gifts. In simple terms, you cannot doubt. You cannot think even once that what you desire probably won't come to you. This would be true of health. This would be true of any form of experience you might desire. You have to think in mind's terms of total possibility in order to have its ideas function in your consciousness. You have to retrain your subconscious mind so that your reactions regarding money are positive, so that you have no fear of having it or not having it. If you state anywhere in the comments, money is filthy lucre, it's terrible, you shouldn't be seeking it, it's spiritually bad, that is a reflection of your subconscious mind. I do not embrace that. You know that the divine source is available to you at all times. You do not give money excess power for good or evil, but see it for what it really is, a means of exchange, the means of freedom. I'm reminded here of the great English teacher of metaphysics, F.L. Rawson. He once told an audience that when he began his teachings, he was in need of money. He decided he would treat 15 minutes each day for 1 year solely for money, ease, comfort, and prosperity. Within a few weeks, his whole financial condition changed. He had no more concern about money, yet he maintained the treatments for a year, destroying the lack pattern in his subconscious mind. He replaced it with a prosperity pattern and was prosperous for the rest of his life. Most people are conditioned to distrust other people's use of money. They're in awe of money, yet they grumble because they don't have it. You can only demonstrate what you like. You can only demonstrate, as they call it, what you agree with. If you do not have prosperity now, think back to what your habitual attitudes on money are. This will explain a great deal. Then decide that money is good, that it is a divine idea, and that you want to have it in your life. Without money, we wouldn't be able to build the buildings and the roads, the hospitals, to create the exchange of food. There's so many things that money allows for us to do that allows for your prayers to be answered. It's the same as the blood in your body that flows. Without the blood beating from your heart, it wouldn't go to the mind, it wouldn't go to your feet, your body wouldn't function properly. It is just the way that your body works with that blood. Money is like God's blood. It is God in action. If you believe that you can move any mountain, you can with money. Money is the way in which God works. The power and wisdom of mind have never planned a negative program for anyone. This was true in the Depression in the early 30s, as it is today. For all those who face discouragement because they do not know a way out, let me share a story from Raymond C. Barker's The Science of Successful Living. Early in 1932, in the depths of the Depression, a woman came to Barker explaining that she was nearly destitute. She begged him to show her a way to change her consciousness so she could have prosperity and freedom in money. "What is the one thing above all others that you would like to do?" he asked. She replied that she had always wanted to be a pastry specialist. At this point of economic crisis, she couldn't even have found a job as a regular baker, let alone a specialist in fancy pastries. She looked at him in complete amazement when he said, "Then go ahead and do it. If we together subconsciously accept the idea that you can be this, then every door will open for you to do it." She did not argue, but agreed. He gave her a mental treatment suitable to her problem and asked her to use it daily. They both believed her desire to be sound, even though the world would never have called it practical. In ways beyond anything the human mind would have thought possible, a noted manufacturer of flowers arranged a one-week pastry school at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. Out of thousands of applicants, the woman who was following his counseling was one of those chosen. Upon completing the course, she was considered so unusual that she was offered a job as a pastry specialist in one of the few wealthy clubs able to survive during the Depression. She was constantly employed in that type of work at the finest clubs and hotels for many years, receiving a large salary. This was not a miracle. It depended on her belief that a larger mind than her own could cause the things she desired to happen. What any one person can do, you can do also in your own creative way. God plays no favorites. Neither does the infinite count blessings. Divine mind doesn't count the wealth it bestows. It doesn't count the health, the love, the inspiration that is ever flowing out. It doesn't count the steps of progress you make, nor does it count those steps in nature. There isn't a person in the world who can give you an actual figure on how many leaves will fall in any of the national parks when the autumn season is here. That many and more will come out fresh and green in the spring. The infinite knows only to release. It knows only originality. It released you as originality by means of individuality, with the freedom to create attitudes which in turn determine the way of your life. Your invisible patterns of mind can always be enlarged. We have had thousands of years of belief that having money was sinful. We have therefore a strong conditioned pattern. In the subconscious mind, the group or universal subconscious mind has a memory pattern that money isn't really very nice. You're born with these beliefs. We have the vow of poverty in the monastic orders. There are people in the Facebook group that say they have made vows of poverty. Other people take similar vows. As a result, there's a group subconscious resentment of people who have money. I will find it in the comments. Someone will make a comment that will clearly show their resentment of people that want money, that desire money, that create it. And perhaps that explains why so many people have an avid interest in how other people spend their money. You may have caught yourself speculating on how John Jones could afford a new car, or how your friend Sally really was able to pay for that new boat. Those are matters that are none of your concern. Recently, I was talking to somebody in my family, and they saw an advertisement online that said a 3-room apartment for rent, $3,600. And I said, "Oh, I know someone that's looking for an apartment, but they can never afford that price." A few moments later, I had caught myself, and I apologetically said I should never have said it. And I negated it from my consciousness. The financial affairs of others are none of our business. You and I should not gossip about another's investments, be they good or bad, in our own estimation. If a neighbor wants to go to the racetrack and lose thousands of dollars, it is no one's concern but his own. That doesn't mean that horse racing is bad. It doesn't mean that betting is bad. I'm merely implying that each individual has a right to make their own decision about their spending. If it is unwise, they will learn about it soon enough. I remember working with a woman that had repeatedly said to herself, I'm going to be poor someday, but I won't care then. Now, obviously, if you're aware of the subconscious, you would be aghast at the pattern of limitation that you planted in your subconscious mind. And I said, did you actually say and believe that? She admitted that she had repeated that statement many times. She would spend freely in things that she wanted and would say, oh, I'm going to be poor someday. But her subconscious mind took her at her word, and she was fast using up her small salary and savings. She would say, I know that I don't want to be poor. I want to make more money. So we went to work on her subconscious, negating her statement that she would be poor, old, and planting the desire for continued work and prosperity. Today, she is independent of her company and actively resumed her career and is making more money than before. If you're one of those people who are frustrated because you haven't freedom of action, because you're limited in money, do something to overcome the frustration. It is keeping the unlimited supply from your door. Money is spiritual. That's why I talk about it. When you start to think prosperity and believe that money is spiritual, you'll be clearing your frustration. However, you may have to undo a great deal of the past. You may have to lessen your remembrance of early years and early family patterns, as I did. Check yourself to see what erroneous money ideas may have developed in your consciousness. Then disengage yourself from them. Innumerable individuals who were born in very limited circumstances were not conditioned by it. They rose either to prominence or at least to a place of pleasant financial security. It requires self-discipline to think of money as spiritual and to honestly believe that you can be a recipient of divine goodness if you follow certain guidelines. There is no simple formula. Wise men have always known that what you believe determines what you receive. A remarkable example of this occurred not long ago. A woman who I had known for a short time messaged me and said, I want to go to Europe, but I don't have enough money. And I suppose the average person would have said, it's preposterous, you are asking the impossible. I, however, believe that all things are possible. So I was like, let's talk about it. We reviewed her numerous other trips and talked about how much she had enjoyed them. Together we visualized the streets she had walked, the points of interest that she had found most enchanting. And I said, now actually see yourself in those places. Get the feeling that you're there. Know that it is possible for you to be there. The classic Neville idea. She followed that suggestion, silently imaging the scenes and the pleasure she had known. 2 days later, I received a message. She said, I received money from a friend in San Francisco. She told me that she was going to Europe on a business trip and invited me to go along as her guest. This was a divine answer to a believer's desire and expectancy. Far too many people have a poverty pattern in their subconscious. There's nothing implausible with whatever amount of money that you want, be it $1 million, $1 billion. Your intellect will come in and argue with you, though. It will try to sell you down the river. Your friends will tell you that's impossible. You can believe them and relax and go nowhere. Why not be a profitable thinker? Discipline yourself to have a minimum of worry and a minimum of fear. Train your thinking to patterns of maximum expectancy. The prosperous thinker is never lazy, indolent, or stupid. They are always an alert, vital, creative, forward-looking individual. They have to have a personal sense of responsibility for their own individual life. I'm just asking you to look at the people that are prosperous and look at the ways that they think. They are planting seeds of prosperity on a regular basis, and they're denying themselves of those lack beliefs. They are moving into that prosperous state on a regular basis, and they're not afraid of money. You can do this. You are prosperous. You are infinite. You can have whatever level of wealth that you want in your life and create no limits around it. What is it that you need to do to become free, to do whatever you want, whenever you want? That is true prosperity. Ask yourself that question on a regular basis and begin to enter into that state. Let your mind daydream what it would be like, how it would happen. Inspire yourself to find ways and avenues to move yourself to that freedom. It's not about the money. Being prosperous is not about the money. It is about what it truly means, and that is freedom. So please put in the comments the changes that you've made, how you've made them in your life. If you had a poverty mindset and then you changed it, I would love to know the ways that you changed it so that you can be an example for the rest of us. It would be a great service if you could do that. Shifting your mind to prosperous thinking is not hard. It is quite easy, and you can do this. Expect great wealth. Imagine it and work towards it. Be alert and ready for inspiration, ideas, and things that will happen in your life. It is all in your mind, and it starts now. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.